You can decide today that you want to be someone new. You can decide at any moment that you want to change, that you want to be someone different. And talking to strangers is weird. But if you want to make friends, if you want to just have a positive interaction with someone, you're going to have to learn how to talk to strangers. It helped me to mentally detach from all the stress that comes from being constantly forced to use, whether it's social media, text, email, all that was gone. It felt like the old days. So what do you do when you get to the point where you realize that you want to be someone different, but you don't know how? You actually want to start putting yourself out there, being more bold. Well, you have to realize that the first thing is nobody cares as much as you think they do. It's really cliche, but it's really true. People who you think are so invested in your downfall, or people who you think are so interested in all these minute details about your life, they really do not care. And even if you would expect them to care, maybe it's people that are close to you, people who are in your family, people who are in your neighborhood, people who you're just grown up with in school. People can only care so much before it gets to a point where they're like, okay, yeah, that's that person's life. That's not my life. So why should I be so invested? Why should I care so much? And you do the same to other people, so don't expect anything different from them. Now, after you realize that, you have to also understand that everyone is living life for the first time. And I don't really like this phrase, but I cannot deny how much I realize it to be true. Mentors, advisors, teachers, anyone who's in a position of authority in my life, I've seen cycles where I would expect them to do one thing based off what they taught me, but they went and did something else. And I begin to wonder, why are you acting in a way that is against the things that you've taught me to do? Why is it that you said that stealing is wrong, but then you went and stole from someone else? It makes you start to question and judge their character, but it also makes me wonder, what are some of the things that maybe I've selfishly done wrong? If I want to be someone different, I have to change how I act. If I want to be someone who sets a good example, then I have to honestly look at myself and actually be that. And if you want to be someone different who goes against the grain, you have to understand that you're going to be putting yourself in a position where you're going to get a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism, and you want to take those good qualities of people that you've learned from and leave out some of the not so desirable qualities. And you want to put them all together and make your own unique experience, because that's what life is about. I've learned this in starting to do work, and that's work of all kinds, by the way, part-time jobs in school, volunteering even for local organizations. Like, you have to make your own path, make that into something unique for yourself. So for example, let's say you are someone who wants to start being more loud and talkative. I grew up as someone who was very quiet, who didn't talk much. And even the fact that I'm making a video with my face on it, for many people, that would be surprising. What do you want to do differently? What steps can you take to get there? So for me, I started to realize if I wanted to start being more of that bold person, which, by the way, you will need that in life, talk to people that you really wouldn't want to talk to in situations that you really wouldn't want to talk to them in. But doing that helps you exercise that muscle and helps you to understand what is possible for you. And so if you want to be someone who's more naturally talkative, you're going to have to start putting yourself in situations where you get to at least practice that. And so for me, what that looked like was joining more clubs in school where I was forced to do that. Doing part-time work where I was forced to do that. As someone who would prefer to be in the background, putting inventory on the shelves and all of that, that gave me good experience. I was working in a part-time job where I began to work with customers who came from all types of backgrounds. I mean, I'm talking like old, young, people who came into where I was working. They were some of the more popular kids at school who would basically ignore me and turn the nose up at me. But because I was seeing these kinds of people in a different situation, a different environment, a different setting, I learned how to operate accordingly. So I went from someone who didn't know how to ask questions to customers to being someone who could help make their shopping experience more enjoyable. That only came from practice. I had a customer come in who didn't know anything about the place I was working and they needed to buy some apparel. They kept questioning me about the details about the apparel in the store, wondering, how would someone who is pretty active but doesn't really want to be in super tight fitting clothing, how would someone like that be able to get the best option for themselves based off of what's available in the store? In the past, my natural inclination would just be, oh, here, you can look at this catalog or you can look at this list that has all the details about what we have in the store. But to make this experience more efficient for them, make it easier for them to understand what they actually wanted, I was able to talk with them and explain what was on that paper. And then when we got to the actual register, I had to talk with them about, what are your plans for the rest of the day? I was thinking, after this shopping experience, this person's going to go do whatever they want to do with their day. Well, I'm going to be in here for a few more hours until I finish my shift. I'm just one small part of their overall day. They might not even remember me and what I did to help them in this situation, but just the fact that I was getting practice, it gave me more of the ability to say, hey, if I want to talk to someone new, if I want to be of service to someone, here's a way I can do that. I remember that person saying that they were going to go watch son play football. And I was like, okay, cool. It's great weather today. You're probably going to have a really enjoyable time. And it's really a lot of these more cliche things that come up and we roll our eyes at them. It's such a nice name, whatever. These are the small aspects of building rapport that really actually matter. In all types of situations, whether it's in a store, whether it's working in an office, whatever the situation, you're going to have to do things to make people more comfortable with you. And that can help you to then understand how you can just make the interaction better. And as someone who wants to speak more and have more of that opportunity face to face, that is what you're going to have to do. It all boils down to that. That's the kind of practice I got with talking with people who I otherwise would have never met, which I think is pretty cool because a lot of times we kind of choose who we talk to because we want to find people who are similar to us. But what about people who you wouldn't seek out, but you end up having to talk to? You have to deal with them too. A lot of people say that when it comes to making friends, that they struggle and talking to strangers is weird. But if you want to make friends, if you want to just have a positive interaction with someone, you're going to have to learn how to talk to strangers. And so I took this a step further then when I began to go to camp. I went to a few different camping experiences where essentially I was isolated from society for some time. And in those situations, I was with a group of individuals who we didn't really know each other very well. We had to learn how to get through the day, and there was no technology on these trips. None of that, social media, phones, computers, none of that was there. And so it was about building rapport, building stronger communication between all of us. So we had group activities. We had things like cooking, things like going out on walks, sitting by the river, and just letting time pass. And I will say one thing that is so crucial about these kinds of experiences is that if you're someone who finds yourself constantly scrolling on social media, consumed by everything you're seeing and really becoming an emotional wreck because of that, I highly recommend getting into an experience where you have to talk to people, but there is no distraction. There's no barrier between you and them, such as these devices that we have. It's just you and that person one-on-one. And that doesn't have to be on some retreat, though it can be. And I definitely recommend it because it kind of helps you to reset. For me personally, it helped me to mentally detach from all the stress that comes from being constantly forced to use, whether it's social media, text, email, all that was gone. So it was just me and the actual person. It felt like the old days. And it just helped me to understand that talking to other people doesn't have to be this hard contrived thing. For example, we had a group activity where we had to make a presentation. This presentation was about an educational topic. Because we had no way to do research, we had to rely on our own experiences about this certain topic. This was relating to mental health. Because none of us had a real strong science background or had spent our free time researching this stuff, we were nervous about who was going to present and what we were going to say. And so I was mentioning during one of our discussions, like, hey, I definitely don't want to talk about this because I don't have any background in this. I just don't know what I would say. And someone else in the group said something that stuck out to me. He said, what makes you think that you can't do it? And that really stuck with me because here I was going to present to a group of people who really didn't know me at all. They also didn't have experience in this particular area. So who was I to say that I couldn't make a presentation that was deemed worth listening to? This is more so a discussion based off of what we'd experienced. There was no grade to this. There was no feeling in the back of our mind that we had to measure up to some standard because there was no standard. So many times in life, we think that what we have to say isn't worth saying because, oh, someone else has said it better. Or, oh, someone else is better at speaking. They've done more research. They have more of this, they have more of that. But oftentimes it's not necessarily the person who's best at doing something that has the most impact. Many times it's someone who just connects best with the audience or is the most authentic to themselves. And you can't really measure that. Having the chance to eventually share my thoughts on the topic with the whole broader group, it was so empowering. It's through having these experiences of being thrust into positions where you have to talk to new people. You have to be that person who's different. That's the only way that you're going to become who you eventually want to be if you're someone who wants to become more talkative. Whatever the motive is, get yourself in positions where people don't know you. Because in those situations, people didn't know me, the shy kid from school, the kid who couldn't put two sentences together without stuttering. I was simply a blank slate. I think that's one of the most beautiful and powerful things about putting yourself into new situations, which you have to step outside your comfort zone to do. You can be whoever you want. People who knew you for one thing in the past, they can't limit you in every situation that you're in life. They might know you as one person from that setting, but hey, you can decide today that you want to be someone new. You can decide at any moment that you want to change, that you want to be someone different. With tools like the internet now, with opportunities that are available, there's really no better time to start doing that than right now.